Next item, banks and credit card systems going down. This was in response to something that the team had done to do with the firewalls and the back doors. You're going to like this. They tried to reinstall their back doors into the system, and many have tried it. Many banks globally, some in New Zealand was mentioned, and the list is quite extensive. But none of their attempts to return back to the old system of cheat and steal have worked, and are not expected to either. It can't. Now, the Visa crash is going on in sequence around the world. Expect Asia to be next, and it will end up in America sometime towards the end of this week. Cash is king. Cards can break. And basically what they're doing is they're trying to create the back doors again via the Visa system, and it's not working. It's not going to work. So the message to all the listeners, keep cash. I know cards are convenient, but we've warned of the consequences of convenience in many shows. Keep cash. Final warning. Now, banks, part of the reset that the banks have been trying to do highlights the quantum system as to what they're doing. And what it flagged up was what's known as the clearance accounts. The banks have lost all their clearance accounts because they thought they could play games and install backdoors. Now, these clearance accounts are side accounts that they use to make vast quantities of money via our money. Now, what happens is when you transfer money through a banking system, the flow of cash is not direct A to B as in buyer and seller. No, it goes into a vast side chamber, in essence, within the banking system that generates vast quantities of funds, and then they filter it through it and release it, or as shown with the trust transfers, hold it back or keep it. But it wasn't just the trust funds that were being brushed off with the transfers. It has now started to escalate with regular accounts also. The wire's not ready, the wire's not processed, the wire never arrived. All excuses to keep cash, liquidity in cash. And what was more likely is those wires all arrived and it was being transferred into a Wall Street fast-track hedge fund bet where they use our money and manipulate markets and use our funds to generate more funds. This is what's been going on. But it's also a further sign of their desperation to cream funds from everywhere. Why? Because we've told you many times they are failing and they are flailing. Now, the object of the new financial system is for banking to be direct, A to B, live. And by that means the receiver has their money for the goods and services instantly. Not wait until banks have collected, used their money to garner interest, and or decide to send it or not. This is why you have to wait to clear checks. Checks are cleared upon signing. They keep it and use it for their own ends. And the same applies to wire transfers. And it all adds up to billions, if not trillions of dollars that are operating outside of the banking system in these clearance accounts. So what happened next is when they started resetting and the system does a scan, it goes into seek and destroy mode. Oops. So the team took advantage of them playing games and trying to reset the system back to the old way with the back doors and the side accounts. And with the reset, it flags up all the anomalies within the system for you and then eliminates it. So thanks to all the banks for trying to reset their systems, as the reset of systems to implement new viruses or backdoors doesn't work anymore. And a reboot sends the system into seek and destroy mode. Oops. Now, following all that, the system flagged up all the side accounts and the clearance accounts. And we managed to locate all of them, all the clearance accounts. So what happened next is we swept up all the clearance accounts, emptied all of their clearance accounts and transferred the wires to the people where they were supposed to go. And the ones that were left over, because a whole range of them were not tagged for delivery, where they keep hold of your funds, 10 days, 4 days, you name it. This amounted to 150 billion worldwide, off the record. Nice little earner that per day, isn't it? Now, all the 150 billion that was swept up was reinserted back into the new system. So none of it is lost. I want to make that clear. And then the bankers were then locked out of clearance accounts altogether, permanently. Any attempt to reload or access those type of accounts requires identity codes, which they don't have, which would directly identify who is committing the crimes. So no ID equals no access. Give your ID exposes you as the fraud. They're doomed whichever way you look at it. Now, the new system is currently only accessible by Kim whilst this cleanup operation is going on. Only she has the codes, so anyone trying to access flags themselves up as frauds. Now, banks on Friday, once they realised all their clearance accounts have been swept up and actually put back where they belong to the people who own the accounts, they were desperately trying to contact all kinds of groups, Chinese elders, Black Dragon groups for the codes and others, except none of them have it. Oops. They are no longer able to siphon a wire transfer anymore. As of Friday, no wires, no ACH, no EFTs going in and out of any banks, because everything is read-only now, and that's why they then started on the visa system. The visa system in Europe is now also read-only, and they are unable to touch anything in transit, and all credit card transactions that currently go through the City of London, no matter where you use it. I have a message for those people. I hear their machines don't work too well anymore. Oops. So it's back to playing online solitaire for you guys. You played your poker hand and you lost to the Queen of Hearts. Now, rest assured, none of the public will lose any of their funds. I wish to make that quite clear. The funds are now safe in a new system and also protected. I've no doubt the cabal will engineer a fear porn message and blame the team for missing funds like they did when their RV failed for the 1015th time or whatever it is now. All the funds will be going back to where they should be and who they belong to, whether that's the government of the country or the people. Same applies with the trust funds. This was all about removing what they have stolen from us for thousands of years. Ignore their protestations should they arrive.